Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Character Quality 5429 and it says, would I be the arsehole if I don't share the inheritance that I received from a friend with her daughter? I, female 32, recently came into an inheritance when my neighbor and close friend, Valerie, female 68, died. I met Valerie when I moved into my condo in 2018, and she became my next door neighbor. Our places are on the top floor and have almost connecting balconies. We used to spend every Saturday morning outside taking care of our plant babies and chatting. I'd learned that Valerie had been a widow since she was 55. I got the impression that she had married young and never had a true chance to learn who she was until Gary had died. I'd always thought that Valerie was alone in the world. Turns out that Valerie had one child, a daughter, Sam, female 44. However, they had been estranged since the early 2000s. The story that Valerie told me was that Sam had come out as gay when she was just out of high school. That did not sit well with Gary. He told Sam that she was no longer his daughter and kicked her out, telling her to never contact them or come home again. The whole situation broke Valerie's heart and it was her biggest regret in life. She told me that she had always wished she had tried to fight for Sam, but in the moment she was so shocked that she watched the whole thing happen without saying a word. When I had first heard that story, I asked if she ever tried to reach out. Valerie told me that she hadn't because she didn't know how to even try. So I did some internet sleuthing and found Sam on Facebook. It turns out that Sam had managed to build a good life for herself. I helped Valerie draft a heartfelt message to Sam. Valerie apologized for everything and told Sam how much her perspectives have changed over the years. Valerie also asked if they could try and build a new relationship. We sent the message and saw that Sam had seen and maybe read the message, but Sam never responded. About a month ago, I got home from work to find Valerie passed away on her balcony. She had suffered an embolism. I sent the link to her obituary and memorial page to Sam. I didn't see Sam at the funeral. There is a lawyer handling all of Valerie's affairs. I thought that I would simply grieve the loss of my friend and eventually would have a new neighbor. I never expected me to be the only person who Valerie mentioned in her will, let alone to have been left everything. A few days ago, Sam messaged me. She was upset and demanded that I give her Valerie's things, claiming that I took advantage of an old widow. I was upset when I first read Sam's message and thought, who does she think she is? She hasn't spoken to Valerie in literal decades and never responded when Valerie tried to reach out. Now, Valerie is her mother and that entitles her to Valerie's stuff? Now, I wonder if I should do something for Sam. I go back and forth if Valerie would want me to. Valerie knew where Sam was, so she could have included Sam somehow. The lawyer I talked to said the inheritance is completely mine and that Sam has no claim. But should I give Sam something? The sci-fi guy responds to this saying there's always three sides to every story. Side A, side B, and the truth in the middle. You don't know what happened between the two of them. Not really, so I'd be very careful of vilifying anyone. I had a friend who was kicked out and whose mum cut contact because they came out as gay. Their mum acted like their child was the one who abandoned and mistreated them and played the victim to anyone who would listen. It's not always so simple when family doesn't come around. I don't think you need to give up any cash, but I would offer her pictures and mementos in the house that she may like. Not everything, mind you, but a few things that might remind her of her mum, or pictures that she'd like, if there are any. Not the arsehole. OK Hat replies to that saying I like this idea. In addition, I would not engage directly with Sam. Let the lawyer handle all communication. Tall Support says not the arsehole. I found myself in a similar situation years ago. My then partner of 12 years took his life. Unbeknownst to me, I was made his beneficiary to a small insurance settlement. I immediately reached out to his family to get info on his two minor daughters. I was going to give them both some money for college. Without knowing why I was contacting his family, the mother and his sister, they were horrible to me. Called me every name in the book. They actually had a memorial service for him and, air quotes, forgot to tell me. Never mind that I supported this man and his daughters financially for years. After they hung up on me for the 90th time, I'd had enough. I kept every penny and still don't feel bad. JV says, this is a soft not the arsehole from me. To be clear, Valerie was a bad parent. Even by her own accounting, what she did to Sam was terrible and wrong. She allowed her husband to cut their child off for being gay, or at least didn't fight it, and remained estranged from Sam for decades afterwards. While her husband may be the main villain, Valerie is very far from blameless. Also, who knows what Sam's side of the story looks like? The truth could be even less favorable than how Valerie told it. Reaching out to Sam with an apology was a nice thing to try, but let's be real, Sam had every reason to rebuff her. A good person who felt truly sorry for what they did to Sam would have probably left a portion or all of the estate to her, even if they didn't have much of a relationship. You are legally and ethically entitled to this inheritance, since you had a relationship with Valerie, and it was her express wish that you'd be given things upon her passing. I can't call you an arsehole for that. If it were me though, I'd probably be trying to use some of Valerie's legacy to make things right with Sam. This doesn't have to mean giving her everything, but it would certainly extend to giving her any family personal effects that she wants, for things like money and property without sentimental value. I think it's fair to factor in things like how much Sam or you need it. Is there a grandchild who might have college expenses? All that sort of thing. OK Astronaut responds saying yes, from poor Sam's point of view, her parents abandoned her. Then even after her father's death, her mother did nothing for years, which doesn't exactly smack of someone who is truly regretful. Then she tried one feeble message and when all wasn't forgiven instantly, she leaves everything to a random neighbor. That's a massive kicker and to me sounds very spiteful. That lady was indeed a very bad parent, and I'd be handing everything to Sam. Storm Tomcat says, in my opinion, Valerie was a bad person. I'm Sam's age, and I can sort of understand that Valerie was surprised by her kid coming out and her husband being hateful. What I don't get is that she let the initial surprise carry over into 2 decades of estrangement. She just stood and watched, and then what? She never reached out the next morning and let her 20-year-old daughter be homeless. And in the quarter of a century, she never thought to Google or see if any family friends knew where Sam was, or contact Sam's friends. Even after a bigot of a husband died, Valerie was just a bad person, just like Gary. You decide how closely you want to follow her wishes and enrich yourself by hurting Sam once again, as the final and lasting impression her mother left her. Nando says not the arsehole because you don't know this other person, so it isn't on you to fix. But dear lord, your friend was an awful mother. She disowned her child for being gay, and the full extent of her trying to make amends was a Facebook message. Come on. Ad Pristine says not the arsehole. Valerie is a huge arsehole. Sam had a terrible emotional trauma being abandoned by her parents. She's had to support herself for a long time without parental help. Almost 25 years without parental help. Most young people can rely on their parents for unconditional love, but Sam could not. Why should Sam forgive such a huge transgression? Valerie obviously wanted to support Sam in some way. She should have kept Sam in her will. ETA, I changed my mind. You are the arsehole because you're accepting money that is coming with terrible motives. Valerie clearly wanted to get back at her daughter one last time by leaving her out of the will. If you want to be a tool for revenge, so be it. Morally, I do believe the daughter should receive something, seeing as how Valerie abandoned her first for being gay, and then barely tried to reconcile. But OP updated that same post and said thank you to everyone who commented and gave me outside perspective that I needed. I'm shocked at the volume of people who've reacted to this. I was really only hoping to have a handful of responses to help me think. I do want to clarify some things that I wasn't able to in the original post due to the character limits. I first want to address the timeline of events. Sam was kicked out in the early 2000s. I think it was 2002. Gary died in 2011. Valerie sold the family home and downsized to a condo in 2013 because the house was too big for her. I moved into my condo in 2018. I learned about Sam. Valerie wrote the letter and we sent it to Sam in 2022. Valerie retired and all her will and estate was set up in the end of 2023. Valerie died on January 23, 2025. The funeral was on January 31st, 2025. I messaged Sam as soon as the funeral arrangements were finalized. Sam messaged me this past Sunday on February 23rd, 2025. To clarify some questions that people had about the estate, is currently in the formal probate process. Valerie was a legal secretary for a family law office, and the lawyer she worked with specialized in estate law. She had a full carrier there, and as part of her retirement package, that lawyer helped her set up her will and take care of the estate. This is the lawyer who told me that everything is being done by the book, that everything will be fully settled in a few months, and that all of Valerie's wishes are being carried out to the letter. I've taken Reddit's advice and will be speaking to a different lawyer about both my legal interest in the estate and how to communicate with Sam. I still haven't responded to her because I haven't been sure how. Her initial message was extremely harsh and attacking, and that is what triggered that first emotional and protective response in me. I'm trying to take Reddit's advice and be empathetic to Sam's situation. However, that is challenging because Sam has continued to send a few additional messages demanding that I respond and calling me a heartless bitch and homophobic bigot, among other things. I'm not going to respond until after I talk to that lawyer and can do it the right way. I do think that Reddit is right in that if Sam wants any sentimental items, that she should have them because they might help her healing. I do want to be clear that the estate is not very big and is very simple, and that Valerie had was her condo and her car. That car was more valuable to her than it is on the market. It's a 2014 model of a daily driver. I hold the spare key to Valerie's condo, and I've been in to clear out the kitchen and take care of her plant babies, because I can't bear to see them die too. It's been really strange being in that space without her. I've been given permission to start cleaning out the condo, but not to get rid of anything. I'm going to spend this weekend going through her things and organizing them into boxes. I don't know what type of sentimental items that I'll find because Valerie doesn't have any family photos on display in her place. There are no photos of Sam and no photos of Gary, not even wedding photos. I can't speak to the Valerie who Sam knew. I do know that in her younger years, Valerie was an active member of the LDS church, but that she stopped being religious by the time that I knew her. The Valerie who I knew was by no means a bigot. I knew her as a kind, loving, and accepting person. She knew that I'm bi and never judged me for it. She has a pride flag hanging on her balcony, and she used to attend pride parades as one of those ally mums/grandmas who would hug and be supportive to the LGBTQ+ youth who had no one. I knew her as someone who was trying to make amends to the universe. When I first heard the story about Sam, I was shocked because that just didn't line up with the Valerie that I knew. Valerie did have her own Facebook account and knew how to use it, but Sam was not easy to find. It took me a few months to track her down. I used Facebook Messenger because that was our only means of contacting Sam. The message was a 4 to 5 page letter where Valerie told Sam everything and completely shared her soul. Valerie only reached out once because Sam was so much like her father, and I don't want to push her or hurt her further by pestering. I've told her everything I can until she responds. The only direct communication that I've had with Sam was the Facebook messages I sent her about Valerie's death. I think that covered everyone's questions. Thank you all for providing me with new perspectives. It's been helpful. There's been interest in all of this, so if people want further updates after probate, I'll try and provide them. And the other update said, I met with a lawyer last week and learned some new things. Firstly, that lawyer is going to be reaching out to Sam to ask her to stop contacting me directly and to only communicate via him or the probate process. He's also going to ask her what she wants, both from Valerie and what her goal was for contacting me directly. This lawyer also explained the formal probate process for my area for me. Legal next of kin only have during the formal probate process to file a contest against a will. Once the process is finished, there is no legal way to contest the will. One of the steps of this process is also to legally/officially notify all next of kin and debtors of the death, that the estate is in the formal process. So Sam was notified by the probate attorneys right around the time that she sent me that first message on Facebook. What's strange is that the probate documentation shows that Sam said she doesn't want anything from Valerie. My lawyer also told me that the way Valerie's will was written, it would have been challenging for Sam to contest it during the formal probate process. He also said that it was extremely rare for judges to rule against their deceased wishes, especially when it was easy to prove that those wishes were made when the person was full sound mind and body. He also added that Sam telling probate that she didn't want anything from Valerie and her harassment style to contacting me would all add additional layers of challenge if she does change her mind and files a contest in court. So now I'm waiting to hear back from Sam. I'm now very curious as to why she would tell the probate attorneys that she didn't want anything, but would then turn around and contact me the way she did. And it's very much back and forth in the comments even after those updates. But that's currently where OP's story is at. What do you guys make of that situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from the relationship advice subreddit from Guapa79, and it says, what do I say to my 45 female boyfriend, 44 male, who doesn't seem to realize he's just broken up with me? I've been dating my boyfriend for about a year. When I met him, he had separated from his wife and they were going through a divorce. 8 months after separation. I don't usually date men who are only just separated, but we just clicked. One thing I've asked from the beginning is that whether or not he wants to have more kids because I'm child-free for medical reasons. He's always said he wasn't bothered either way. The relationship with his children is very strained and they don't like going to see him. Now the divorce is complete, I've warned him that he'll spiral, having had friends go through the same thing, which is usually why I don't date men in this period. But he was adamant he was going to be fine. He isn't. He's totally spiraling. I've suggested that he go back to therapy, but he doesn't want to. I said not to just have these thoughts and feelings swirling around in his head and to talk if he needs to. He started talking to me about his feelings, and one of them is that he wants to have more kids. Now, he said this in a stream of consciousness in a voice note. I'm on the waiting list for a hysterectomy. He's still texting as normal. How do I confront this? He doesn't really have anyone else to talk to. However, our relationship is basically over in my head now. Commenter says, sounds like you just need to be upfront and honest. Tell him he wants more kids and you can't give that to him. You have broken up with him in your head, not him breaking up with you. Opie says, thank you for replying. I think a conversation definitely needs to be had. Commenter says, sounds like you need to break up with him. It's a shame how men tend to end up lonely due to refusing to invest in a social support network. But alas, women can only do so much for men. Break up and let him rely on a therapist to handle this life crisis of his. Opie says, I've been urging him to reach out to old friends, but he doesn't seem to have anyone to have these kinds of conversations with. Opie says, you are indeed wise, so the relationship with his kids seemed awesome when we met. Then, as the divorce arrangements picked up steam, they started having a bit more attitude and asking questions about finances that I wouldn't expect from children. When I met, he was in therapy, so I'm baffled as to why he's so against it now. It was actually one of the reasons I decided to see where this goes. We had very frank discussions about the breakdown of his marriage, and he's accepted what he believes is his part, and being from the same place as his wife, I could see things I could also find hard to deal with. Getting an outside view would be hard because his family are on his side. He's staying with his sister and they've been arguing because when his kids are being rude, she's trying to correct them and he's asking her not to. Commenter says, since you've had friends go through divorce, you know that some of the things people say in this major transition are just thoughts and words. It's really important, in my opinion, for people going through divorce to get therapy. You can't assume he realizes the implications of his rantings. You can certainly point out, if you want kids, that would mean we're incompatible. Not sure if you're just having thoughts or if you're expressing actual intentions. Opie says, thank you for reminding me of this. It's a lot harder to remember when you're directly involved. What I don't want for him to say what he thinks. I want to hear so that he still has me around. Commenter says, could it have been a statement made in a spiral? It is possible that the emotional complexities are deeper than a metaphorical shot across the bow. It seems like a simple conversation to reaffirm your choices is the next step. Perhaps he's truly interested in having more kids, in which case the relationship is done. I wouldn't call it a healthy process to check out without talking first. Opie says I believe it was because I got another text this morning saying that he doesn't want to have any more now. Commenter says, does he realize that you actually don't want any kids? I'm assuming this because you did not even mention it in your post, because there are other options like adopting. Opie says, oh yes, it is one of the first things I asked as to not waste time. With my medical conditions, I wouldn't adopt. It wouldn't be fair. And to another commenter says, I have other health conditions and I don't think it's fair for children to have a parent who they will end up looking after. I was that child and that isn't a childhood. And OP replies to a longer comment saying, wow, you've written so much more succinctly than what I've been thinking. Honestly, up until yesterday, his values aligned with mine. We had a very frank and open discussions about the breakdown of his marriage and how he contributed to that. He was in therapy. He visits with his kids. Were, from his description, great. He always puts them first and ensures he plans something they both enjoy, as they both enjoy different things. I've had some health issues and he's taken care of me, challenged me to get up and about again. He's also thoughtful. He's not perfect by any means, but I do enjoy his company. As the divorce arrangements started to get hashed out, his children started asking questions that you wouldn't hear from a child. His ex asked him to not discuss anything with them, but the questions showed they were hearing something from somewhere. When the eldest said he was horrible for just walking out without saying goodbye, he corrected her and said it didn't happen that way. Obviously, they went back and asked their mum because she ripped into him and didn't let him see them for 3 weeks. Their attitudes started changing. Now I'm well aware I'm only hearing one side, but the difference between the visits, even up to 6 months ago, are now very stark. So OP came in with an update and said thanks for the answers. I replied to as many as I could, but eventually it got a bit repetitive. To those who never saw my replies and have the same questions, his kids were happy to see him when we met. But as the divorce became more acrimonious, they started to say things that, in my mind, children wouldn't typically say. If he had said anything about his children not wanting to see him when we first started dating, that would have been a red flag for me. Helping a friend through divorce and listening to them go through various ideas is very different to the person you see doing it, especially when they're talking about things that means the end of the relationship. Anyway, on to the update. We met up and I asked him if he was aware that he said he thinks he wants to have more kids. He said yes, it's a possibility. I said, you're aware that I'm on the waiting list for a hysterectomy? He said yes. I said, so you're aware that this essentially means we're over? He said, it doesn't have to mean that. We can continue seeing each other until I make up my mind. People, I nearly fell off my chair. I stared at him and realized that he actually never knew me at all. Anyone who knows me knows I would never put up with this foolishness. I actually laughed and said, you want me to continue to see you while you decide whether or not you want kids? And then if you do, I should just meekly walk away. Does that sound like that's fair? He said no, but he loves being with me and doesn't want to lose me. I told him I was lost the minute he told me he might want more kids. I said I appreciate him telling me the truth, but the consequence of this means we're over. I told him what I've told a friend. Sort out your relationship with the children you have before making new ones, and gave him a book on that subject. I left and cried. I'm going to miss him a lot. He's been texting, but I may block him soon. I had to pick up my drawer off the desk after he said it doesn't mean that we can continue to see each other until I make up my mind. I thought, you bloody Burke. And I was just sat here thinking, what the fuck is he thinking? It just got divorced, he's having a strained relationship with his current kids, and his thoughts are, I might want more kids. I don't even know what's crossing your mind at this moment in time. That's without even talking about the ages in this, but holy shit, what do you guys make of this situation? Put yourself in OP's position. How would you feel? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.